I was about 15 when I decided I really wanted to become an Army Ranger.
My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger. To all the men and women of the United States Armed Forces now in the Middle East, the enemies you confront will come to know your skill and bravery. The people you liberate will witness the honorable and decent spirit of the American military.
And there would be like popcorn white flashes of like fucking artillery and bombs going off on towns like in every direction. Our objective is to seize the dam. We don't want Saddam's forces to blow it up. So there.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Operators Debrief. Eddie Chavez. Here I got an awesome guest tonight, Ryland Taylor, an old Ranger sniper. And you think that was deadly? He's now a lawyer, correct?
But a lot agree.
A lot agree, at least.
A lot agree. Although I'm not a practicing attorney.
So hope you guys enjoyed the show. We're going to get to the Haditha Dam and then whatever else he would like to discuss. Please, if you haven't subscribe, hit the like button, put it in the choke hole for me. And if you have any comments on other guests you'd like to see, you know, we got a lot of guests coming up already to tell the story of you know, some of the things that my brothers have done, and also more importantly, how they are now. All right, brother. So you know, I'm gonna give you the floor. Kind of do like a, you know, what made you decide to come in, and kind of your, you know, everybody's always got that funny when I just got the battalion. I thought your story prior to you, and then to where you're at afterwards, this was pretty good. It had, you know, the big thing is the dam, and then whatever else you would like to talk about, brother.
Yeah, the dam is a hard act to follow. You know, it was really amazing mission and deployment. I was very, very surprised, and you know, honored, proud, overjoyed to have gotten to do it. That being said, you know, like when I look back, every deployment was really special, and you know, it was just it was an amazing career. It was an amazing thing to get to do, and you know, I mean, I think just the whole ride from joining before 9/11. And kind of getting to see the, you know, when I joined it, we were 90s Rangers, basically. You know, I joined during the Clinton administration.
Yeah.
I was 17 years old. I turned 18 just before I got into battalion. So, you know, I was always the kid with the, you know, the infantry pins or the jump wing, because I was always the baby. I think I was the youngest in Ranger school as well. So, you know, it was both a blessing and a curse. I think your naivety kind of gives you a sort of a sense of trust and invincibility that you really rely on. And then later you kind of look back and you go like, oh, those motherfuckers, like they didn't know what they were doing, you know?
Yeah.
So it's, you know, I couldn't be happier with the things I got to do. And, you know, there was a kind of an interesting progression to it, because when I had joined, you know, it wasn't, you know, I wasn't expecting really to go to war. I thought we might, and I had no idea what we were in for, what I would end up growing into. So, you know, I kind of had a on the one hand, I knew I wasn't going to be a lifer. I didn't think I was going to be a lifer. And yet I loved the job, and there were a lot of things I was good at and excelled at. And so, you know, I kind of kept that conflict with me of like wanting to stay in, but knowing that, you know, you have other things that you're going to do. And I carried that through college. Like when I had, gotten out, I was really 25 because, you know, I stayed in and I contracted for Triple Canopy for a while.
Okay.
And so, you know, at that point, yeah, you know, I basically had a seven, almost 8 year career and had been, you know, in a management position. And I was very comfortable, in combat and, you know, kind of just, living in the profession of arms. On the flip side, I was uneducated. I, I knew I knew I needed education. I kind of had, you know, I knew I had a life elsewhere outside of the profession of arms. So yeah, you know, it was something that I ended up kind of carrying with me for a good at least 10 years. And it's only been now that I'm starting to kind of you know, take it all in stride and understand where everything belongs. But you know, it's kind of schizophrenic to change careers so many times, and so it's like you know, it's like having a lot of different lives. You know, working, going to law school and having a sort of lawyer identity, and then working in film and television and having like a Hollywood life. Meanwhile, I'm a Oregonian at heart. You know, I'm from the Pac Northwest, so it's just been, you know, it's been so many different things that it's been really hard for me to feel cohesive.
Yeah.
And especially when you have, you know, when you have your brothers overseas and you're kind of staying in touch with everybody and you're kind of visiting the rendezvous, it was a lot to leave behind. Yeah. You know, I've missed the brotherhood for a long time, especially too, like, you know, when you look at the levels of responsibility and capability that is asked of you and that you're capable of, to walk away from that and then have to like kind of be in an environment with people who like have no idea what it is that this country asked of us, or that we were, you know, more than happy to do for our country. You know, so it's been a wild ride, but once again, I'm lucky as all hell. I've gotten to, you know, for anybody that merely spent 4.5 years in the Army, I got to do and be a part of some like unbelievable things I probably don't even deserve to be a part of, if I'm being honest. And I got to anyway. And then, you know, same with college. I had a great education, and I've just gotten to do a lot of really wonderful things. So I'm grateful for all of it. Doesn't change the fact that, yeah, my heart's been ripped in about like 4 or 5 different directions most of my life. I heard that. I watched your podcast with Pacini, who what I loved working with. He was awesome to get to work with. I love that guy. So yeah, I'd heard that you actually ran missions with your son. With
No,
the regiment.
I didn't run missions. I would set their stuff up prior to going out, and then I'd have to watch them get on the bird to go out. But we got attacked together there in Bagram. It was like a 25 or 2,000 pound V-bed with assaulters, and that was cool to be able to be with my son with that happened, because, you know,
Unbelievable.
I mean, it's just like it's, you know, I don't have to explain to you. It was just one of those things that it was awesome, man. It was just a cool thing to see him work and see every you know, it was just awesome. It was awesome.
I mean, that is so unbelievable. It's kind of like, you know, it's almost like a fantasy, like, you know, like if I was just set my son up, like how cool would it be to like, you know, be there with my son in combat. And
I would say that before, prior to that though, like the rest of it, putting him on target, knowing what he was walking through, up front with the dog, the areas they were going into with no backup. That fucking sucked, bro. That was gut wrenching. You have to just sit there and watch it in the jaw as it's going down. And,
Yeah.
that was not. That's when I was like, man, why did I volunteer to come out? Because I was Hebrew 275. I was working with 375, but I volunteered to go with 275 to be with my son, and kind of backfired a little bit. But then we had that one moment, so that made it worth it.
Wow. It's unbelievable. Knowing I've over the years I've gotten to know a lot of families of the guys. Some through some through the Gold Star Network, actually through charities and whatnot. And so that was a really big thing for me to kind of get to reflect on, was like how the family's involved. The family goes through it with us, and when you're young, you don't think about these kinds of things. And maybe it's because you can't. I don't know that you'd be able to function if you had to keep like your whole family line in mind, right? Like it's like, dude, you can't do that job if you're thinking about how your parents are like worried about you. And so it might just be kind of like a function of just being human and being young. That being said, though, yeah, when I look back, it's like it is just amazing to me what the families go through to send their sons off to war and go through it with them and to be there. And it's remarkable. It's amazing.
So you said you came. Your parents were hippies, right?
Yeah.
So it's weird that. So what made you decide to kind of go out and you went?
Well, so this is a hell of a kind of a story, and I don't want to maybe go into too much detail about my family and my personal life, but so my mother, so I came from a same-sex family. I actually had two moms. And I didn't know my paternal lineage. I just knew them, and my mom was an absolute hippie, and I have half of that in me, right? Like, so I love my hippie side, and she had that like Ranger spirit, although she wasn't a Ranger, and I might add too, like her father, my grandfather, was a D-Day veteran. He was an infantry platoon leader. Lost his CO during the invasion, ended up taking a company. And I think he lost around 90 men under his command until he was finally wounded out. His RTO hit a mine, and he took shrapnel to the hand and the noggin. And so he had a just about one of the hardest and richest times as a soldier for the United States, I think, as anybody I've known. He was also he became a lawyer. He was actually a judge, and his father was a judge before him. So I grew up and we lived with him. So I kind of grew up with him watching the History Channel. And so part of me was insanely drawn to and curious about the military. On the other hand, like he absolutely suffered from his wartime experience too. He was he drank. He drank the war away. So it had a very powerful impact on the family. And it's something that my mother bore too. She bore World War II. Grew up during the Cold War. They had the nuclear drills, and so from her perspective, she was like, "Dude, this is fucking madness." Like, yeah, my father suffers. Look what the war did to our family. And now we have a Mexican standoff with Russia, and 2,000 nuclear bombs aimed at each other. We're doing nuclear drills. Like, this is fucking crazy. War is hell. This is stupid. Like, this is terrible. So when 1986 came around, I was 3, she felt the calling to take part in something called the Great Peace March of America. And there were about 1,000 marchers who started from San Diego, went up to LA and marched east. They went all the way up to New York City and then ended in Washington, D.C. And they did so by foot. It was a traveling caravan. It took us 8 or 9 months to complete it. It was an unbelievable experience. It was hard. They walked 20 miles a day. I think the longest I walked was 3 miles as a 3-year-old. We camped. We slept in tents. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. Kind of goes back to the war as well, where it's like some of these things were unbelievable tests of our mettle, and certainly nothing that I ever expected to have to face when I joined. But I'm so grateful that I got to, and they were as well. Once again, it was just a bigger fish than I ever thought to cast. I always kind of felt like I have a small, like I didn't have ambitions to to take on great levels of responsibility. I've never sought responsibility or hardships, and yet I've gotten some of the greatest ones I've gotten to do. So that was a bit of the background, and I think I was about 15 when I decided I really wanted to become an Army Ranger. It was like I read a book, and one of the characters was an ex-Army Ranger in it, and I was like, dude, that's one of the coolest things in the world. Yeah, and then Saving Private Ryan came out. It was right after my grandfather had died, and when I finally saw that, it was like, oh Jesus Christ, like this guy was there for that, and follows a Ranger unit, and I just looked at like, here's what these guys did for this country. And this really happened. It's unbelievable. We really did it. And this is coming, by the way, Schindler's List came out like 2 years before that. So we kind of got, I got bombarded with like the Holocaust and kind of being confronted with like, there's so much evil in this world. There's nukes, there's the Cold War, there was the fall of the Soviet Union, there's the occupation of Europe. There was the Holocaust, and here's been America, who have been, making incredible sacrifices to fight this shit. And here are these men who are, they're coming off of ships to direct machine gun fire, and they're doing it anyway. And I didn't even know how something like that was possible. Yet, here are these guys, and not only are they doing it, they're not even like bitching about it. Like when you look at the character Jackson, he's a sniper. He's a Ranger, he's a Ranger battalion. And it's like, and I just remember thinking like, if I was there, like that's who I'd want to fight with. And that would be the guy I'd want to be under those circumstances. Like, what I have what that takes to be able to take on those jobs and not complain. And I have my friends be able to be like, like Taylor is going to, if you want anybody to like go up onto the bell tower and like cover our asses, like, Taylor's not going to complain. So that I think that's a lot of my motivation.
It feels like every one of us is like that, and even the ones who, like, you wanted to do it beforehand, I wanted to do it beforehand, but even the ones who didn't even know what a Ranger was until they joined, once they give the community, the way we bring each other, build each other, and the ethos we live by. That's everybody's goal, is to be the one that our brothers want next to them. And it's an exciting time, and you can never, ever recatch that.
And here's the thing too, is like, you will gladly lay your life down for your friends. I mean, it is, when it really came down, it was like no question. And I think the only other love I can relate that to is love for like my immediate family, Like there have been times where it's like when I was in danger as a kid, like my mother would like not even consider her own safety, and she was like right there, and it was like that is such a powerful love, and it's so powerful. It's really easy to take advantage of, and it's really easy to test. And, you know, I think we're all guilty of that too on some level. But it is so special, and not very many people know what that feels like. And I think you know, I think there's a lot of I think people just don't really understand how powerful that is and what that means and what that means to us. And that's certainly been something that's been, you know, kind of difficult for me to try and convey, because I think if you haven't felt that and if you haven't gone through that, you can't really respect it. And so that's something that I hope people understand. If you know, you have a civilian audience of your podcast, I hope that this is something that we can convey to them. You know,
Yeah. I remember in the middle of gunfights, just looking around and just everybody just unwavering. You know what I mean? It's like nobody was hesitating. Everybody was moving. Like it was just like it was when that round went off. It was like everybody wanted to be the one in danger. I mean, and not in a hectic way, like they weren't getting out of position, but everybody wanted to be the one to like, oh, you're shooting at us? No, you're not. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it was just I would not want us coming after me. I'll tell you that.
Oh God, no. I mean, this is why I think our enemy is so fucking brave to fight us at all. You know, like I'm sure that they're not aware of it, right? Like at least not always. I think most of the time we really caught them off guard. But that being said, I mean, it's like how could I don't know how anybody could have the balls to fight us.
Yeah.
So yeah, 9/11 happened, and everybody's kind of going nuts. You know, we don't know who it was yet. We're watching the towers. You know, I think everybody was really excited because we knew we were gonna get our CIBs, and we got our first mission. And this is crazy. So our first mission, I don't want to go into too many details because I know this is a public forum.
Yeah.
But it was projected to be a near suicide mission. They'd done an assessment. They were like, yeah, the majority of people that you send on this mission are gonna die, and like they got the approval to go ahead anyway and do it. So this came down, and like and once again, keep in mind I'm 18 years old. So all I see is like Ranger Regiment. All right, I got in. I'm scared. Tell me what to do. Okay, blah blah. And then like it's like, yeah, we're actually mostly gonna die on this mission, and so I'm just like, fuck. Well, I guess that's it then. So you know, we all write our suicide notes.
Yeah.
Or not a suicide mission notes. You know, the kind of death mission notes. Yeah. And nobody quit. You know, everybody said we'll do it. And the mission got canked. But that was kind of the thing. It was like, hey, look, like wow, you know, like nobody quit. And that was when we didn't even know what the combat was going to look like or be like. And once again, you know, it's like you kind of go through all those things, and it's not like you can't really cry about it or talk to anybody about it. But it was certainly one of these things where, you know, I'd go home on leave or whatever and talk to friends from high school or kind of talk to the family. And it's like, just no idea what you had just been through. You had no idea what you had just been through. You're kind of just learning how to talk to girls, you know, so, and try and not be cringe about it and try and not like you know, cash in on the Ranger beret. They don't even know what a Ranger is, but you know, you might. So, then we get our real mission, which was Objective Rhino, and our company was set to be the first boots on the ground in Afghanistan. And this is the next hardest thing. It was as hard as you know, agreeing to go on a suicide mission. Was I got canked from the fucking jump. and I wasn't the only guy that did. There were about like 6 of us. There just weren't enough seats on the mission for entire platoons. They had to, they had to cut the youngest privates. But I'd done like a full training cycle. Like it'd be one thing if like you were just a hua, you just got there, and you're like, hey buddy, you gotta have to sit this one out. I'd be like, yeah, okay, I get it. But like I trained this very mission. Like we did mock-ups of the raid. I'd been through the raid 3 or 4 times and still didn't get to fucking do it. Sure. And not only that, I had to watch 2 caskets come back, which were the first casualties of the War on Terror, which was Prison Stone Cipher. And so that was just as hard as and impactful, I think, as some of these other things that we go get to do. So I went to Ranger School, and sure enough, to keep things in perspective, like the majority of the military hadn't been in combat yet. So we've got RIs who are like bitching and moaning about not getting in the fight yet. And they're like, pissed off that we already got to go and that we're going to get to go back. And then you have like leg unit guys, and you've already been in combat in one way or another, and you're a private from a battalion. And so there was already that kind of like divide that I got to experience a lot, which was like just kind of being in that position and being around units that don't understand combat or haven't gotten to go to the show yet, like kind of feeling that tension. Yeah. So yeah, in 2002, it was really weird to go through Ranger School in that era, and I know things would change because everyone would end up going overseas. But at the time, that's just not how it was. Like you just didn't know. I ran a couple missions with our sniper detachments because they wanted a saw gunner with a tab who knew how to patrol already and wouldn't slow them down, and they needed the extra firepower. And I'm hanging out with these guys. They're all on a first name basis. They're really comfortable being completely alone, like in Afghanistan. And I'd done a couple other, like I ran across snipers a few other times, like on training missions. Any of these guys are like hanging out in leafy suits with painted rifles and suppressors, and they're just like smoking and joking. And I was like, that looks really comfortable for me. Like it was just like, there was just something that, there's that part of you that just goes like, dude, like that looks like what I want to do in battalion. So yeah, I did some patrols with these guys, and got to be like friends with a few of them or whatever, and kind of had the RTO experience, and there's other stuff, and like I said, I just didn't have that part of me that was like, oh fuck yeah, I want to like I want to beat I want to beat the Huas. It just didn't call me the same way. And so I kind of put in the word with my PL, who I had RTO'd for. And I was like, hey, would it be possible for me to put in a sniper section? And I should add too, like in Ranger School, from being an RTO, my platoon sergeant ended up being a Florida Phase RIP instructor, RI. And so it was like, because I was RTO, like I had favors from both that both got me through Ranger School, but also got me in a sniper section. And so once again, it was just a really fortuitous thing to get to do. So so they said, hell yeah, we'll put in we'll put in the word. And so I got back from that deployment, and this was by now like October of 2002, and did some rounds of interviews with the sniper section guys, and ended up saying goodbye to my line platoon. And it's funny, it was like a real, once again, this is like a big deal thing where it's like, kind of grow up with these guys. You've been to war with them twice. You have a really close friend. I had a friend who never forgave me for it. I think to this day, he never fucking forgave me for it. And it was just kind of like, there were a lot of these things that it was just like, I was like, come on, man. Like, I didn't know that, these would be things that like, I'd really have to think about or worry about. You know what I mean? I was like, I just had to be like, if somebody wants to do something, then that's the right place for them to do it. And this attitude would come in later where like, if somebody didn't want to be there anymore, like I'd be like, dude, go home. Like it's fine. Like I don't want to fight with people who don't want to be here. Like if you ever feel the fear and you're like, dude, like I feel like my numbers come in and I'm getting this, be like, dude, go home, bro. Like it's cool. You did your time. You fought with us. Like it's bound to happen to all of us sooner or later. It's okay. And not everybody feels that way. Like a lot of people take it really personally, and I understand that side too now. But it was something I didn't understand when I was in. Like when I was in, I was just like, dude, like, you need to want to be here, and if you don't, that's cool. But pick one. So it was a little bit of a rocky start for me joining sniper section. Like, I get there and there's guys who are like, E4 tabs, just like me. They've been there 6 months or maybe a year, and they're just, you just haven't earned their trust yet. And like, I didn't really get anybody to handhold me on like what, your new kit. So it's just kind of like, all right, what the fuck am I doing here? And you like, figure it out, bitch. And so, I like I get to the range and it'd be a little souped up, like, and I'd just be like, what's dope? Like, and it's just like, it's like, guy, like, there's a lot to learn, to be a good sniper. So luckily they slotted me in for sniper school. I think it was only a month, when I was a month there. And then once I learned it and figured it out, like I came back and they were like, "Oh, well, we see a huge improvement in your performance." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, that's because I got to learn my job." but I almost got kicked out. I got in trouble in sniper section, or I'm sorry, I got in trouble in sniper school. Like I think at this point I was 20 years old, and I had a couple beers in my car. And we'd had a range day in the school, and like if we were sleeping outside of the school, it would have been fine. You're allowed to have beer, but for whatever reason, like I got done cleaning my rifles with a couple of my schoolmates, and we went out to my car to like have a beer and just kind of chill out. And like some like E4 E5 cad, like not even a cadre member, he like saw it and it like turned into this scandal. And we got like interviewed, like we all got put on hold, and like the captain wanted to kick me out of sniper school, which meant I would have gotten kicked out of the regiment. I would have got sent to Korea. And luckily, there was a colonel who was in charge of all of Benning's infantry training brigade, who saw as like an army ranger. Like he's like, "Oh man, like, well, what happened?" Because they had to get approval for him to kick me out. So I like, write this letter, which is like, hey, it's just a beer. I had no idea it would be this big of an issue. Please don't kick me out because we're about to go to war more. Really, I feel like this punishment would ultimately hinder. Yeah. And so luckily, like the colonel was like, hey, cool, no, let him stay. But like there were a lot of people that were like gunning after me. So like the captain of the sniper school, like he had to eat his orders to kick me out. And then I had a couple guys from sniper section who were like, yeah, fuck this guy, like just kick him out. And then luckily my squad leader, who I owe my career to, he was like, he stepped in and he's like, dude, he's in my squad, don't gun after my fucking guys, like don't worry, I'll handle this. And he ended up being a hell of a mentor for me. I ended up fighting at the dam with him. I owe him, not just my career, but my life. And so that was so like I said, it was a bit of a rocky start. Like there was a good chance, if things had gone the other way, I wouldn't have gotten to go to Iraq with the battalion. We were staging for the invasion, and we were in a neighboring country. I won't say because of OPSEC. Some of them still give a shit about OPSEC.
Yeah.
But it was so fucking surreal. Like we're out there. It's like the desert. We're in this desert camp. It's like us and the CAG guys. And man, there's like one night, like a Patriot missile. It was so surreal, just kind of being in the staging area. This like missile fucking sets off, just bright white light goes up in the air. And it's like, oh, holy shit, like we're going to do this. And all the guys are like, you know, the Band of Brothers had just come out on DVD. So everybody's like watching Band of Brothers and, you know, watching the jumping in Normandy. And it was just like, oh man, like this is fucking happening. Like this is going to go down. And so two companies got to do a jump. And then once again, I got the company that wasn't going to jump. And so I'm pissed off because I'm not jumping into another country. And I to this day, I don't have a single fucking mustard stain. I never got a combat jump. I had to watch 3 combat jumps occurred. I didn't get on any of them. And so the guys do their jumps. They set up H1, I believe it's called, which was like a desert airfield, like out in the middle of fucking nowhere. And we ended up coming in on a second bird, which did a tactical descent. I don't know if you ever heard of this, but they come in at 15,000 feet or 20,000 feet to avoid AA and everything. And by the way, the thing's like dropping flares and banking, and you're just like, dude, like is the whole C-17 gonna get like shot down? And you know, we're all gonna end up in this like bloody, burnt to crisp. I mean, it's like really crazy. And so, you know, we were coming in at 20,000 feet or whatever, and then suddenly we get within a mile of H1 to land, and the thing just nosedives. Yeah. And this is a cargo jet, so you don't think that it's like capable of like acrobatics, but they are. And it's so like everybody's everybody's like zero gravity. It's like hanging on to all your shit. It's like dark. It's like the invasion of Iraq. Like, and then it, you know, does the last minute flare and we land and kind of get out, and you're like looking at like what to expect, and it's like, you know, they got a couple guys on like Polaris 4-wheelers, and they're like kind of directing us to a staging area, and so we like popped that first night. I forget how long we waited, but at this point, so our objective is the Haditha Dam, and what I didn't know was that, you know, like I was bitching about not getting to jump into Iraq, and like the dam was going to be like the hottest objective anybody would get. And so we do a desert patrol to get there. And like Pete, he's so fucking cool. So like he read like, you know, he'd like study like SAS engagements in the 60s and 70s in the desert. And then he'd be like, check it out, Ryland. We'd be like, yeah. He'd be like, yo, this was just like, you know, in Angola when they'd like, blah, blah, blah. Or I'm like, oh, really? Like, it's so, you know, we're going out and we do like a desert patrol with Humvees. We set up a Humvee patrol base, which is just like a regular patrol base in Ranger School, but like with Humvees. And kind of, you know, had the camo nets and everything. So we get some rest. The objective is, you know, the mission was only supposed to last like 24 hours. So we were supposed to go and take it over at night with surprise. And we were meant to be relieved by I forget. I think it was third ID was sweeping from the south. And I had that, like, I think the reason why BIOP got canked was just because, like, the invasion was just moving so quickly. Yeah. And
that's what happened.
And yeah. And so they were just like, dude, fuck it. We're not, you know, don't even worry about it. They're already, you know, they're going to be moving up on BIOP. And so, and this was like kind of tough to see too, because I remember when Jessica Lynch got captured, and I know it was because we were moving so quick and we weren't really diligently securing towns. And this is like byproduct of Blitzkrieg. Like it was a huge thing in Russia when the Nazis were blitzkrieging Russia. Like the supply people were like completely undefended, and they were just trying to catch up. And it was like it ends up being this really kind of chaotic steamroll mess. But I get why they have to do it, and it's probably better to blitzkrieg than it is to like, try and do everything the air quotes right and planned way, because it's like that's like way more chaotic. It's like, just let them do their thing. So anyway, like yeah, you just kind of have to expect there's got to be room for error, and there was room for error because we were doing a coordinated night raid with a light infantry unit against what would turn out to be like an entire, at least a division of entrenched guard. And these guys would be this is a conventional war, and you have special operations unit like going in, and it's meant to be relief. It's like our job is to seize off the surprise, secure a tactical position, and then get relieved by the conventional forces. And so it was a very perfect mission for the regiment historically. I mean, it's like right up our alley. Going back to World War II, like Rangers were really good at these kinds of specialized missions because they had a level of training and care to be able to pull off sophisticated maneuvers. And conventional units just don't have it. Like they don't. They like there isn't enough resources to put into a big conventional unit to do it. But the flip side is that like Rangers would get like decimated being thrown at conventional missions just because they were good soldiers, and that happened quite often. I know it happened in Cicerna, but also in the Anzio Forest, I believe. They'd throw them. Yeah, they'd throw them at hills because like it was just like, hey, the Rangers are good, and it was like, all right, but that's not really what they're meant for, like they were meant to do like operations, not just like, not just be good soldiers. I mean, they, so anyway, I guess we got to do a little bit of both. So, we back to the Desert Patrol Base, so we're driving over to the dam from H1. And we sleep there one night, and I gotta say, man, like the scene was like otherworldly. Like you would look on the horizon and there would be like popcorn white flashes of like fucking artillery and bombs going off on towns like in every direction. And it was just like Saving Private Ryan. There's a shot where they're like walking at night and you could see the flashes of artillery. It was just like that, man. Yeah, so these two stealth bombers were flying at like, I want to say 500 feet. And they were just flying over. They looked like manta rays.
Like Batman.
Yeah. And I mean, it was just so fucking crazy to get to see that. And this is like on the way to the dam. So we end up rolling up onto the objective, and we basically I think we hit tarmac because we were just driving over desert, hit tarmac, and then within a mile was our objective. And we kind of started, we're like kind of stopped, and then we'd move, and then we'd stop and we moved because different elements would be going to different spots. And so at first, like, it was like super quiet, like we're rolling up and like it's like wait, like how much is here kind of thing. Like I don't know if that makes sense. And we'd been on so many hits in Afghanistan like this where it was kind of like that's just like what I knew. And sure enough, like so we ended up like getting catching a couple guys who were, they were in uniform, and like kind of, so we're like detaining them, but they, I hadn't heard any shots fired yet. So it was kind of like, are we just going to seize this? And this is going to be, relatively like, peaceful. Cause that's how it seemed at first. Like we were just kind of like, trying to figure that out. And then as we start to roll up again, gunfire starts coming up. And, I would add, like, just to kind of describe what it kind of looked like. So we were coming from the south on a 1 or 2 lane highway, and then that 1 or 2 lane highway would turn. It climbed up a couple 100 feet, and there was a collection of buildings and a hilltop at the edge of the lake. And so the dam is basically the first opening of the Euphrates River, and it dams a lake. And the southern point of the road, where the lake starts and the dam starts, was a facility. It's like a collection of buildings and a hilltop, and then the road continues for about, like, I want to say a mile before it gets to the hydroelectric facility. And then at the base of this hill is like a valley with a series of buildings and roads leading, like, that basically go all the way towards the Euphrates River. And then at the Euphrates River, this is the town of Hadith, or is it Haditha? There's like, dense buildings right at the river leading up to the dam. And on that other side of the river is the village. Like, it's like a proper town. It's got lots of houses, and so it's busy. Like, this is like, I think it's a town of like probably 30,000 people or something. So that's to kind of give an idea of like what the landscape is like. So our objective is to seize the dam because we don't want Saddam's forces to blow it up. Because if they blow it up, like, 2 things will happen. Like, one, the town will get flooded and it'll fuck up the reconstruction effort. But 2, it's also the only main highway connecting a big part of our invasion force to allow them to continue moving. So there like wasn't another place for the army to cross. So there was a real tactical objective at the dam. And there were a number of reasons why, we thought the enemy might blow it up to disrupt the invasion. And not only that, there was a large contingency of Republican Guard forces. It's like Haditha is very Sunni. It's totally Sunni territory. It's like west of Ramadi, as I understand. And like as you go west, it's like more and more and more Sunni. So we're in the Sunni heartland. And so the people are, it doesn't get any more pro Saddam regime than it does here.
So you have their most motivated and trained forces.
Yeah. And this is crazy too. Like, this is something I didn't think I'd see. Like, it was a conventional uniformed army. We're really used to lean and irregular enemy forces. Like, it's just like what we're used to fighting. And this was a very brief moment in the war on terror. It was like a Call of Duty campaign mission, so to speak. I mean, before that. So we're seeing these tracers fly up at us from the valley. I can't. I don't yet have a position on like where they're exactly coming from. But at this point, our column starts moving as we're hitting the objective. So like a couple of the platoons, their objective is to seize the hydroelectric facility, and so they move on ahead. And our objective was that southernmost point at the beginning of the lake, the beginning of the dam. So just for moving up, and we're like, it's just fucking crazy. Like little bird AH-6 attack helicopters start doing these like very low elevation gun runs right over us, and sure enough, like, I got hit with brass. Like, it was just like Black Hawk Down. Like, yeah. And you're seeing it in real life.
That when these little birds were coming through, because Greg was one of the guys, one of the pilots. You had the whoever was driving was obviously the one that shoots in the AH-6. but then the other guy was shooting his M4 or dropping grenades.
Yeah, so I've heard this after the fact. I know there's another Ranger from the network. I didn't serve with him, but he had a lot of friends. He was a 175er. He had a lot of friends that ended up going to the 160th and doing a bunch of other crazy shit. So he knows all these like legends. And he told me about he knows, and I wonder if it's the same guy that you're talking about. But he knows one of the co-pilots who was popping hand grenades and dropping them on enemy positions over us. And I haven't gotten to meet him yet. I would love to. I would just love to hear. Just love to hear his story and his perspective. I should add that later I got to work with MH6s and got to do some sniper work on the Little Birds, and it's like one of the coolest. Like I said, like this is one of the when I say like I'm spoiled and fortunate for the work I got to do. Like, flying on a Little Bird with sniper rifles, like one of them. It's just amazing. Those things, and the pilot's the 160th, like. The maneuvers that they do, the cool heads that they keep, they are some of the coolest motherfuckers I think that are alive. Like, just amazing. So yeah, seeing the AH-60, it's like talking about dual. They've got the dual miniguns and the rockets that are firing, and when you're seeing it like with live ordnance in real life at night, right over your head. It was so unbelievable to be a part of that and to be a part of that machine and just see it happening in real time as you're moving on your objective. So yeah, the guys at this point we're all dismounted and we're like clearing the buildings of our objective, and Pete, so he's gonna, I'm like hopping forward with him. He identifies the this little hilltop, which we dubbed the Eagle's Nest, and we were going to move there, but before there, we're bounding up on these buildings and like climbing up to the roof of like they were like 1-story like cement shacks, I think is a good way to put them. So they weren't like too hard to mount these things. So we're like climbing up onto the roof, getting Overwatch, and then the line guys are moving through and clearing room to room, and then we're like jumping down and then running up, and then Rick running up to the next building and climbing on that roof, and he takes one of the machine gun teams from the line squad, and it's really funny because he goes like, the machine gunners, he goes like, and I forget if he called them by name or if he said the machine gun, he goes like, machine gun team, and he goes, yeah, Roger, and he goes like, follow me. And so we're like, I was like, Pete, you had to say that, right? He said, so we kind of do these, we clear all the buildings, and then finally we can kind of look down into this valley where another platoon, which was at the base in the valley, has been in a gunfight. They've been exchanging fire with enemy troops. And I should have, at this point, I'm also seeing what the AH-60s are hitting, because the machine gun, that position, like in the back, seeing in real time vision, AH-60s doing guns on live targets, shooting almost. At that point too, I think there were a couple of I want to say RPGs, definitely RPGs, that came up and airburst over us. And I'd gotten rocketed by what are the 105s? I think they're like the Wile E. Coyote ones. You leave on the stick, and they kind of like light the fuse.
Oh yeah, they're big things.
Yeah, that was in Afghanistan, and I think we had taken an RPG from Afghanistan too. But I'd never seen an RPG this close. Like, the thing just like flies up. It's got the white shower of sparks, and does the whiskey Pete noids or whatever, and then like airbursts over us just like a firework. So it's just all happening in real time, and it was just very cinematic, but you're just kind of feeling it at the same time too. So it was just a very very high volume kind of experience. Now, meanwhile, the other two platoons had I think at this point they've crossed, and they're on their objective, and they're seizing the hydroelectric facility, which was much more dense. There's a lot of close quarters combat fighting, and once again, these were uniformed enemy soldiers. I mean, this was a military installation. The buildings that we were clearing were like Iraqi army buildings.
And oh, by the way, they were told by Saddam that we were there to blow it. So they're fighting for the families that live in Haditha, thinking that we're going to blow that dam.
Yeah.
So they can kill their family.
Well, this is the total irony and catch-22 of the entire thing, is that I found out later, like, the reason why they were fighting so hard with all their lives is because they were told that we were going to blow up the dam and flood their hometown.
Yeah.
And so we're all fighting each other with so much energy, like we're fighting with so much heart, because we're both fighting for the same thing.
Yeah.
It's so fucking weird.
It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to be if you were writing this whole thing, you'd have to have a very rich sense of irony. And this too is like, this is why, like I say, like, how fucking brave these people are. Like, and I can get into that in a little bit more detail, because I saw a lot of heart and heroism that came out of the Iraqi army, and I'm incredibly humbled and touched at their bravery, and their grit, and also their competency. Like, I know a lot of people like to shit on our for being incompetent, but they're not my experience. Like, I know, take that with a grain of salt, because, like, having employed a lot of Iraqis, I wouldn't call them the most competent people, but they surely can be. When they have their heart in something, they're pretty fucking good at it. And I'd certainly say in terms of the insurgency, I think they were a great insurgency force. Not great in terms of goodness or quality of cause, but they were definitely a lot more competent than I think people at home in this country understand. And just because we have a level of military technology and training and sophistication that, like, the whole of humanity has never seen before, doesn't mean that these aren't still competent militaries that know how to work with the equipment that they do have. Because I would find out they were really fucking good with artillery, and I skip on too much, but they were damn good at that. Our first couple of elements, they were seizing the hydroelectric facility. There was another sniper team with them. Guys I fucking love. I won't say their last names to identify them, because, like, and stories. Yeah. But I would say I think it's safe to say, fucking love those guys to death. Love fighting with them. I mean, got to do and see some unbelievable things there. And took a lot of really, really danger close rounds, almost direct hits. Ended up, like, doing a lot of fighting in the streets, and doing what we were doing, which was the like high elevation support for longer distance stuff too, because they were gun running on hot targets. Like, these were machine gun positions. Like, Uh, and Pete, I think he had fired some rounds too on some of those same targets. He had the Barrett 50 cal. I had the SR 25. And so they were hot target. We were taking a lot of fire. I don't know if I've conveyed that enough, that like, you know, we were taking fire. Like, it was fucking scary, you know. Like you know, there's a sort of sense that it's like when you're under fire, like you're willing to set aside all of your other conventions to make it stop, you know. And there's just sort of a shift in like the order of you know, your order of like just doing things. You know, it's like, dude, if you're under fire, it's like nothing else really fucking matters other than like taking those guys out, you know, and like as quickly as possible.
And it's weird, like you said. And I think for me, I was scared so much in Ranger Battalion from like, I hated heights, first of all, but I was more afraid of letting people down when we did stress shoots. I was afraid. I didn't want to be, you know, but I would try to get as high as I could when we were doing the team competitions, squad, you know, all that stuff. I did not want to. I'm still this way. I put an episode out, I'm so sick to my stomach, making sure that it goes right or whatever, because I don't want to let my Ranger buddies down. And I think that kind of helped me in gunfights, because even though there was times when I should be scared, but I knew I had so much. I was in charge of death from above, and I knew that I had to be quick. I had to be fast. I couldn't hesitate, because every second counts, and I always want to rank some freaking 40 Mike or some freaking 105 and scare these guys so bad and punch them so hard in the mouth that the guys in the other room don't want to, or the guys in the other house don't want to come out. You know what I mean? Because
and it wasn't
great, bro. I just didn't want my buddies to get hurt. I didn't want to let them down.
So it's really strange, because there have been times where I've looked men in the eyes and felt like it's just an intuition, and it's like, you know, these guys don't know what the fuck, like there have been times where people accidentally flag your unit or whatever, and it's like, you know, you're within your rights to like smoke the guy, and you know, by all accounts you might be supposed to, but I've chosen not to, and they were the right choices. Like I can look back and I can, you know, I'm glad I didn't. But then
that whole thing, to me, that's not true, is the greatest sniper. You know what I mean? It's like, what makes the greatest sniper? Okay, I'll give Carlos Hathawk his credit, because his swords are pretty freaking insane. But I mean, for me, I've never had a sniper that didn't do what he was able to do. If they're at the place at the time, I've never had to worry about my snipers doing what they needed to do, man.
Yeah, well, that's you know, that's been the other piece to this, is that when, like, there have been times where I've been able to cut through the confusion and be like, no, like that's the enemy, like, yo, like they gotta go.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. Like, war is really fucking confusing, especially under gunfire with friendlies around. Yeah. And, you know, like, I think one of our biggest fears is shooting our own guys, you know, like, and it should be. And there have been times where it's like, no, that is the enemy, engaged. And so I've been on both sides of that. I've also, and, you know, I'll go into that in some of the grisly details, seeing the results of close air support on enemies, on enemy personnel, and engage those enemy personnel as they're, you know, as they're being fired upon by fast movers, right, with the JTACs. So I think, you know, one of the things that I was really grateful for was, like, getting to have that experience. So later, you know, your decision making is a lot more methodical, right? Because you're not, you know, it's like once you've seen combat, you know what it's like. You don't need to prove yourself, and at that point, you're a better operator. and you only get that through experience. And I think that's why I love Ranger Battalion so much, because you're not, well, like when I was a contractor, there was zero things I needed to prove. Yeah. It's like, nah, I've been in enough gunfights. Like I trust my discretion, and I'm really grateful to have that discretion. But it comes at a cost, and not every unit, like that's why veterans are, and by veteran I mean experienced shooters are so valuable, because it's you just get that decision making to plus up your unit in future engagements. So it comes at a high cost, it comes at a very high price. But I think it really pays its way in preventing accidents in the future down the road too.
Yeah.
But yeah, to go back to what we were talking about, there are a few things that I think I understand a lot better now, having been out, and that is like dude, when you're getting shot at, like, it angers you. like and I know this might seem like elementary, but like like if I shot at a friend of mine at a gun range, like let's just say like we're at a gun range and as a joke I shot at his feet, like you think how fucking furious that friend would be, right? Like he'd be like, dude, like I trusted you, it's not funny, that's attempted murder, right? And like, so you're going through all of that when an enemy fires at you, and people don't get it. Like it's like that just doesn't come to mind. I think a lot of people think like, oh, well, you should know, like if you're invading a country, people are going to shoot at you, and it's like, dude, yes, that in your head, but you're still going through the fact that like somebody's threatening to kill your mate, and God forbid, like I don't know what's worse. Like I feel like to fuck up and let a friend get shot, like that's got to be one of the hardest things any man has to go through. I think it's just as bad as friendly fire. And the other thing is like mistakes happen. Like mistakes happen in war. We aren't all perfect, and we have to accept these things and be willing to go through it, because there were like little mistakes that I'd made that were not by any means life threatening, that like ate at me. Problems like going to sleep at night, being like there's this one time it was my next deployment after the dam. I improperly secured my sniper rifle because I was jumping on a machine gun to pull security for the line, and I bungee my sniper rifle, and the thing slid out from underneath the bungee on a bump. Fucking rifle skidded off and like fucking hit the road, and like it was like my honor was hit. It was like humiliating. Like I just never forgave myself. Like it ate at me, and it was just one of these many little things that like that just fucking eat at you because the stakes are so high. Anyway, I'm still kind of tangenting, but going back to when your friends are getting shot at, or when you're getting shot at, like it just I don't know, it just changes you. Like you're you just Rangers are very, very slow to kill people. Like we are not a trigger happy unit. And that is something like I'm so fucking proud of. Like I'm so proud of the discretion and the restraint that we show in terms of never being wasteful. I'm just so I can't even say how fucking proud I am of that.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean it is, and it takes so much. You're talking about a 19-year-old with like 2 years in the service, or 2.5 years in the service, being thrown at like JSOC objectives and being expected to handle it and doing it. It is just it's unbelievable. But yeah, when things are hot and there's somebody who's got bad intentions, he's gonna like kill your friend or kill a civilian. Man, like Rangers will they will swiftly and decisively destroy the enemy, and you know that's special. That I think that takes a lot of guts and a lot of heart. And God, I love the regiment. Maybe that brings me to the beginning of the real battle. So maybe it's a good segue.
Yeah.
So this is the early morning. I believe it's April 1st. Yeah, I believe April 1st was the first day of the battle. I think we rolled in on the 31st, and you know we kind of started the objective during the 31st. And it's the morning of the 1st. It's not yet light out. The little birds have been doing these close air support gun runs on enemy firing positions in the valley below us. There's a platoon that's below us that's been engaging the enemy. They've been in a gunfight. You know, we've been on these building tops as we've been kind of clearing this objective. And Pete's on the rooftop with a machine gun team and me. And Pete's got the Barrett 50 cal. And he had he'd hooked up, he had an extension for his scope for the nods for his PVS 14 to hook up behind. We didn't yet have universal night sights, so I had the I think it's like the Pac 10. I forget exactly what it's called, but it was like a big fucking TV on top of, you know what I mean? And you know they're not bad. Like I gotta say, like I actually really like that scope. We had Leopold Variax. I think we had the Leopold Mark 3 or Mark 2. It was a 10 power, 10 power mil-dot reticle scope. It was like, and they were the most badass at the time. And I know it's been like 20 years, and like I am continually like blown away and marveled by like how the precision arms industry has evolved. But the Pac-10, I believe I'm saying it right. It was pretty good. It was about as good as a Leopold scope. I don't think, I'm sure the daylight wasn't quite as good. Like it probably wasn't quite as good as collecting light as a Leopold was, but like it was pretty good. It was pretty damn reliable. It looked really clunky. It was really heavy, but it was a great night scope. So I had that. So Pete had actually engaged. Oh man, and I'm wondering. I don't want to speak for the man. So I'll try and be. Well, then again, it's unidentifiable. So I think I'm protecting his identity pretty well. I'm only using first names. But I will be. I'll be really careful. I don't want to tell another man's story, especially without his permission. Yeah, he'd been firing the Barrett. This was at the enemy gun positions, and so at this point, it was pretty chaotic. It was like I didn't know what the rest of this invasion would look like. I was just kind of like, oh my God, this is like World War II. There's just a lot of action going on. It's this huge conventional war. Like I thought, my assumption was that we were going to end up moving into the town and clearing building to building, and saving. That was what my expectations were. And I was like, this is just the beginning. Holy shit. So we at this point, so we're on the top of the building, we're like, dude, we gotta go take this next high point. Like we gotta bound up again. So we dropped down from the building and we hiked this hill.
At this time, only only Pete had taken shots with the sniper rifle.
Yeah, I hadn't fired yet.
Okay.
So we down climb from this building, and the Humvees are kind of pulling up. They're kind of parking behind the hill, behind these buildings. There's like this kind of a circular kind of an area, and this is all in defilade. This is all behind this hill, like not behind it, like kind of nestled behind the hill within the building. So the buildings are pretty exposed.
Okay.
We can see enemy firing position from the building's tops. We knew the tip of the hill was going to be a lot better. And then the vehicles could kind of park behind the hill, so they weren't taking direct fire. Is kind of my point. But the buildings could. The buildings were exposed. I don't know. Does that give enough of a visual kind of?
Yeah. I was just thinking, man, I wish we had a whiteboard, but yeah, I'm getting it.
At this point, Pete's like, "Yo, we need to get up to the Eagle's Nest. Like, we need to get up there." And I don't think we'd called it the Eagle's Nest yet, but we named it that shortly after. So we're like running up this hill, and it's like I want to say it's about 120 feet in elevation. So it's like a hike, And as soon as we get up, like suddenly the battlefield, like it's like you crest the hill and suddenly you can see everything. Yeah,
like
yeah.
Coming over to you see Vegas.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like it was just like, oh, holy shit! And for a sniper team, like at event, it was like we're in the right place. Like this is where we need to be. So we like start setting up, and Pete had the machine gun team. He has a machine gun team set up too. Saw gunner comes up left of me, and it was like right, and it's still dark. The sky is starting to lighten up. So the whole battlefield just kind of opens up, and just observing everything, kind of taking everything in and trying to figure out who's what, who's where. And the sun is starting to come up now, and we're set in, and for the first time, I see uniformed enemy soldiers in battle. Well, it was not the first time because I saw the gun positions at night, but this was during the day, and it's all of a sudden it's that's them, and I had so I'm just getting behind the scope, and the guys were worried because we had guys down there, so I'm making the call, I'm like hey, enemy troops in the open, it's like a Fort Benning training drill. It's troops in the open, where they yelling this, and there's a little bit of confusion there. They're like, are you sure those aren't our guys or whatever? And I'm like, negative. Russian military gear, Green Army uniforms, engage, and we started opening up on these enemy troops and retreat, and those were the first men I engaged. I engaged them with the machine guns teams, and once again, I mean, and there will be a lot of moments like this for the battle, but you kind of have this idea in your head of what how enemy soldiers should die, and I think we get it from the movies where
Absolutely,
it's that's a bad guy. It's and it's man, uniformed enemy soldiers died just like women and children, flying in the mud, screaming for their friends. They died just like any other human being. And I think it's important people know that, and we see it now. Sorry. Yeah. We see it now with footage of the war in Ukraine. And I think as hard as it is for people to see or whatever, it's also maybe good. I just hope that I just hope that people aren't desensitized to it.
Yeah.
But I would later find out that those were the same very men who had actually opened up on a Ranger platoon that were down there. They shot one of our guys. So those were men. Those are the men who they were like, is up. So at that point, like, I want to say like half an hour or maybe an hour. It's like, we're up there, we're engaging these, okay, but it was like I said, it was like a World War II. Well, it was just fucking crazy. Like, these guys are soldiers. I think it was around this time we started taking indirect fire, and they were coming in the forms of like mortars. So they weren't hitting the hill where I was. But they were like, I think they were hitting a little bit closer to the rest of the platoon, which is down there with the trucks and all that. So like, and it's like pretty effective. Like we're talking about like pretty effective fires. And I look and apparently like one of the guys had spotted there was a fucking a mortarman on an island on the lake, like behind us. And this was like not where we were expecting to take fire from. Yeah. So like, sure enough, I like scoping, like, yeah, this fucking dude like is like hanging around, and we're like, what is he fucking? Is that for real? Like, is he really doing it? Like, that's fucking. Does this guy really think he's doing this? And so, meanwhile, we're still like kind of like doing our thing, and there's there's gunfire, there's like exchanges, so like everybody's kind of busy, and then like. The AT team, they set up a fucking javelin shot. And so like they hear on the radio something like javelin, like prepare the javelin or something. I was like, someone talk.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, Pete, like, did he just say javelin? And he's like, what? And like, so like everyone stops what they're doing.
Actually, I remember it was you from the Discovery Channel thing that I remember talking about this. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so like literally everybody stops what they're doing. Like at the tip of the hill, and I'm like, Pete, is this really happening? He's like, look, and there's like the AT dude, and he's like sitting like Indian style with like I believe it's Indian style. This is what sucks is like, he might have an interview like, and if he came out, he's like, I wasn't in Indian style, I was on a knee. Yeah. So he's in a formal javelin firing position.
Yeah.
And everybody stops. And by now, like the sun's like, it's like morning, but the sun's, I swear it's not like out yet. And all I see is like just this like, it was like so fucking loud, this missile. And it just does this like direct vertical takeoff, bright white light. Like it's got this exhaust that's like, kind of looks like a Voyager 1 takeoff or something. And we all just like watch, and this thing goes like way up into the air, and it starts drifting off course, or what looks like it's drifting. And we're like, what? Like this like $150,000 piece of machinery, it's gonna like not work? Like Jesus Christ, this is a hell of a time to find out. And like so, like we're like, oh, like we call it this like big sigh of disappointment. And I think everybody there was like. Oh, lame. And then it was like, oh no, if you thought this was gonna miss, it's not. And like suddenly it changes direction or trajectory and just does this like beeline. And the guy's still there at the mortar tube, like hanging rounds at us. And it was like, I don't know if he just didn't expect it or didn't see it coming, but this missile just like, it was like a direct hit, like blown to smithereens. Like it looked like the whole island was like blown up. Just unbelievable. And I think I heard later it was like, I think he got the order like no more firing javelins at like human targets. It's just something like that. Like you gotta save these for the vehicles. Like at this point, I think shrapnel had started hitting the Humvees and stuff. Like because when I later went down, I saw a lot of the damage. There was a lot of damage on our equipment, especially. But at this point, I still hadn't I'd seen the indirect fire. It had been close enough. I don't remember it being like really earth shattering for me. And I think that was because I was a little bit further away. And I also think like, mortars just don't have the same kind of force as artillery does. I mean, artillery is just like, it's unbelievable. So on that note, like, we kind of get back to the battlefield and, we're engaging some small arms. I'm sorry, engaging targets with small arms. And at that point, like most of the enemy soldiers were like out of sight. We'd either, we disposed of them all, I think, at that point. We were in a very superior firing position. And, I think if you're doing a military studies class, you'd see that like it couldn't have been better for us. And so I'm just incredibly thankful that we ended up in a superior tactical position like that.
How many rounds do you think we went through at that point?
I want to say like probably 3 or 4 mags. Yeah, maybe 3 mags. And that's they're 20 round magazines. So it gets great. It gets worse. like we ended up going through a lot more. So, so this, all right. So at this point, I might want to kind of add like I'm scared, like we're all like, I'm like, dude, like I'm just waiting for casualties to come over the radio. Like, and it is, we're taking indirect. We've been shot at. Like there are enemy soldiers that have been like IMTing and bounding below our position. Like it's like fucking, you're like turned on and you're scared, like switched on and scared. And so, there was just this general sense. It was like, like we want all the help we can get, kind of thing. So that was then the next kind of moment. I think it was probably, I want to say by now it's 7 a.m. So like, it's like still like morning light. And that was when I saw the first JDAM get dropped. And so once again, I mean, those are just as unbelievable as the javelin. Like I'm on target, like all of the guys that kind of converged. There's this barracks building, where all the guys are going to kind of conversion. And like at this point, like I didn't know how many guys there were. Like I didn't know, I didn't see probably more than 20 people.
By that point, the enemy casualty rate was ridiculous.
Well, yeah, I mean it gets really bloody. Yeah, it gets pretty bad. Like so I saw a F-16 and like, you hear it, you hear the engine, and this F-16, it just does this, like, it comes from like directly overhead and does this like nosedive, and I see it go direct, like down over me, and then it flares and takes off, and as it's flaring, it drops this, it drops a munition. It's a JDAM.
Yeah,
but I'm not thinking that's a JDAM. I just see an F-16 like this maneuver and like drop this thing, and this metal like comes in through the roof of the building that I've been scoping and seeing everybody kind of like all these enemy guys hide in, goes in through the roof, blows out the roof, and then I hear the whistle, and then I hear the explosion of the, because the way sound works, it's like very, dude, it's like very crazy, very surreal. This is 600 meters away. So as soon as it hits, like all of these enemy soldiers, they'd been hiding in that building, they spill out, and it was like, if you can imagine seeing like 100 enemy spilling out of a building that's just been bombed by an F-16, and then engaging those men as they flee and escape. It was just unbelievable. And so, there at that point there's a lot more targets again, and so we were engaging for a while, and basically until they had evaded outside of 900 meters or 1,000 meters, which is the limit of my weapon. There was a moment where they hung around, and I like I don't know if I should be saying this on a podcast, but I will. So I like tried to give him a correction. Like I was like, hey, 30 meters left, 10 meters up, and they were like, "Shut up, we got this." It's like they didn't want to give me that. It was so funny. I was like, all right, fine. Like you got this. But it worked a lot more with at this point the line had set up 50 cals and Mark 19s, and so I worked a lot with the line on keeping them on target and everything, and giving them adjustments, and they were damned effective. I mean, I think I want to say when I gave my high praise, I forgot to mention too, we had an AT team with the Gustav, and they were working with me from the hilltop to hit enemy targets and defilade and stuff. Like, so, you had a Gustav with you? Yeah. And it was like, dude, it was great. Cause it was like, if you saw some guys hide somewhere or whatever, you could be like, hey, AT team, they were like, yeah, what? And then you're like, all right, do you see that thing? And so we were working with the AT too. AT was amazing. I man, like all of them were.
They take pride in their all of them do. The mortarmen are crazy.
Yeah.
They take pride in their stuff, and the AT teams, well, they're crazy too, and they take pride in their. Everybody, but yeah, everybody's all everybody else.
They are just amazing. I feel like I feel like it's okay to share. So there was I want to say it was like, by now it's like 10 or 11, and I think this was my last shot. It was there was an enemy soldier who was and just a hell of a brave man, like bounding towards us, and at this point, like for the most part, everybody was like trying to escape, and then regroup. And I should add too, for the audience, so like, a lot of times units engage other units in retreat, and that's a part of warfare. But that it's very common. It's very common to engage units in retreat. Retreat and surrender are very different things.
Yeah.
And if somebody was like actively trying to surrender, we would take them prisoner, and we did. There are a lot of prisoners.
Retreating, they're just retrograding.
Yeah.
To get into another position in order to engage. They're trying to get to where they can regroup and then continue the attack.
I think, and people who don't understand war might think that that's a little grim. I mean, war is grim, and I think when you're talking about fighting an enemy, like you and if you have a tactical advantage, like you feel grateful to have that, and I know that might sound weird and cold if you don't understand war.
It's war. Unless war ugly. It is what it is.
Yeah, I know you understand. By the way, yeah, you get it. It's just like audiences just don't get it. Like, especially going to college or knowing people in Hollywood. It's like dude, if they heard this kind of thing, like they just like obviously absolutely would not understand. So I just try to be as cognitive as that as possible. But we'd had the range so dialed. I mean, we've been there all day, and like, so all of the wind calls, all of the corrections that you need to make, like it was just like, by then it was like you were wired hot. But yeah, I'll never forget it. And I think of him often, and it had gone directly through his heart. It was very quick. But there's a reason why I bring this up, because it'll come in later, because the battle goes on for a few days. Yeah, actually it was 6 days. So at this point, anybody's out of the maximum effective range for the 308. And so I moved over to a spotting scope, and for the rest of the battle, I was on a spotting scope. And that was when, we were engaging with the 50 cal. And so, by now, it was like around 11 or noon, like it's all right. Sun's out. It was super fucking bright. So when the first, when I got the spot for the first, like at this point, I'd only had like foamies in my ear, and the spot for the bear, he takes a shot, and I'm like, whoa, hey dude, I'm not ready. Then I went and got some Peltors and put them over the foamies. So I had, and I don't know if they were Peltor brand. They're, they were the big earring protection.
Yeah.
And I had the foamies, and and we're out there with like boonie caps on, because it's like it's way hard to shoot with a helmet on, with scopes. And it's like obviously dangerous, because you have your boonie cap, and we're taking like indirect fire, so you feel pretty exposed. But anyway, so I was like, hey, or get the ear on, okay, ready, yeah, and spotted for the 50 cal, and man, like before I knew it, you couldn't put your elbows down without touching brass. Like it was like I think we went through at least 50 cal round shells with the Baron. So at this point, like I've been through, I think I only had like maybe 30 rounds left. I think we sent somebody to go get some more out of the truck, and going through the Barrett rounds too. I think we had like 7 or 8 Barrett mags. And we sent a couple of Barrett mags left. And the next piece to this too was that like we only brought chow for like a day, and water. Like we didn't have a lot of water. And then like one of the Humvees got hit, and you like mount all your food on the outside or whatever, and like so like a bunch of the chow got like fucking hit with trap metal. It was like inedible. So we were just kind of like, I wasn't really thinking about this yet, but it was like hey, yeah, like we actually didn't bring much. We didn't bring supplies for like a long engagement, and this would end up turning into a really long engagement. So meanwhile, a few more things are kind of like happening this first day. So like the F-16, they've been on continual close air support missions, but they're not like the best, and what I mean by that is they have to drop at like 2,000 or 3,000 feet. So it's not like they're like really getting in there, and you're like, dude, like we got troops in the open, and like it's like it seems like all they can do is really like hit buildings. This is not to like disparage an F-16 close air support mission. I am grateful for the F-16s. I mean, like, I know too that there was like a real AA threat, and I talked to F-16 pilots who like, they've talked about getting bracketed over Iraq, where the flak, they kind of have the flak columns, which are supposed to guide you into a SAM space or whatever. So like, super like, couldn't be prouder or more amazed or humbled than to get to see F-16 close air support. That being said, the A-10 Warthog, man, those
I was just about to say,
oh my God, dude, like I've never felt so like safe, like in that moment when you have like enemy fighters like in the open or whatever, and it's like an A-10 comes in at angle, they're willing to get real low, like they go up 400 feet, and you can just see them like the it's like the recoil of the cannon slows the plane down, And then when they stop firing, it's like they gain momentum back and they can move. But saw a lot of A-10 air support, and that stuff, man, like that was like oh wow, like I fucking love A-10. Like A-10s are like the infantryman close air support. Like
that's what they were designed for. They were literally designed around the gun.
Yeah. I mean, there was nothing, like, it was just the relief of it. Like it was just amazing. Having the A-10s, like I would later find out from somebody who was arming the A-10s out of, like, I think in Saudi Arabia, and he said that the pilots, because we were all under like direct fire and like we needed air support, so like the pilots were like really, they're like, you were talking about it, how much they were looking out for us.
Yeah.
Like these A-10s were going in and completely depleting their ammo supply in one continuous machine gun burst. And so they were coming back, and the barrels were so warped that they couldn't, that they were just crooked, like literally crooked. They had to drop the entire gun and throw a new gun on it. I want to say by now it's probably 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And yeah, this is still day one. I might add, there is a ton of heavy fighting on the streets at the base of the hydroelectric facility, where we had 2 platoons that were in constant engagement, constant small arm fire. Yeah, so it was like, when we're doing these like danger close air support missions, like it was like we were under fire and constant contact, and it was like, I think there was a point, like, when we had pushed all of our enemy out of to the edge of small arms. So what I mean by that is, like, there's a point where it was just 50 caliber engagements out to like 2,000 meters. And I'm on the spotting scope, and then we were then I was spotting mortarmen who, once again were home around. You'd see like big troop movements, and I'm really thankful to have gotten to do this. Like I was able to identify, like, when those movements were troop movements and when they were civilians who were just trying to get out of the area, and be able to say like hold fire on that group, et cetera, et cetera. So I was once again incredibly grateful to have gotten to have that position. So that was at that point, like I said, like the number of air missions were just unbelievable. It was just like F-16 after F-16, building after building, and just seeing these buildings get like just pounded out, and kind of turned to rubble over time. That was the majority of day one. I want to say, I think this was day one still, when we had an airman with a drone. It was like a surveillance drone. It was like these things, like, you unfold it and throw it. Like at the time, drones were really novel.
Yeah.
So like, we were still kind of infantrymen. So we're like, oh, whatever. Just like airmen with the fancy tech. Like, what's that gonna do? That's stupid, And I can't think of, like, this might have been a later day. I don't know if it was day one or day 3, but this guy launched into his drone, and he's doing like he's doing these doing his thing with the drone control, and it was like an hour later, we just hear like a ton of small arms fire erupt, and it was like from like a couple thousand meters, like out in the distance that we were like, what is that? Like, what are they all shooting at? Like there's nobody over there. Like, what are they firing at? And, like, sure enough, we hear over the radio that the drone got shot down by small arms fire. Yeah. And I think one of the later days, I think we sent an element out to go recover the drone, and they got it. But yeah, that was pretty funny. So So not night, it's still invasion of Iraq. So there's still like a bunch of bombs going off and kind of crazy shit. And we used we cleared out. Like I said, it was like a shack. It was like of cement. It was like probably a foot thick brick building. And we hunkered down there. Like that's where I slept that night. That's where I slept the whole time. We knocked out a portion of the wall so we could set up hasty firing positions from it. And then P, who's like total fucking badass, he had a sandbag because we fortify so we filled a bunch of sandbags and like hauled them up that hill and fortified the eagle's nest, and we put a camo net over it.
As a ranger in the war that I fought. Yeah.
Say again?
When I got there, we started as expert infantrymen, and then we became BP boys, right? And then we were just like hitting target after target. To hear that you're filling sandbags in the middle of gunfight, stuff like that is just freaking insane. Like I've been in a scenario like you're like you said, it's like World War II. As a matter of fact, well, can't say that, but it's just the fact that you guys are in this conventional fight, and it's just completely outnumbered, by the way. But at the time where you're like filling sandbags and moving sandbags up it's just insane to me. I mean, I know so do, but that's one thing that we never train. We don't practice that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that, and that was what too, because I was still young. I'd had like 2.5 years in the Army. So like a lot of those like Army skills, our leadership had, and once again, like when I say I owe my life to Pete, like it was like to have a leader there. He was an E6. He's a squad leader. I think he joined battalion in like 94. So the knowledge that he had and was able to provide for our unit, like it was just it was unbelievable to get to work with him too. Especially this was my first deployment in the sniper section, and so it was just it was unbelievable to get to just to get to see it and be a part of it, and have just to have that kind of knowledge. Like I said, I mean, they're doing like, it was like a desert patrol base with Humvees, and we're like filling sandbags and fortifying positions. So yeah, it was unlike anything I would have ever expected. And I think too, like, it's Bravo Company. Like, this is the company that fought in Somalia. We had a Somali vet. I think he was I want to say he was an XO. And I think he was the battalion colonel's driver, if I'm not mistaken. And he was there at the dam.
That's right. It was the same company that fought in Somalia.
Yeah, hell yeah. Joe Voodoo Company, man. This is what I mean by, like,
if our followers watched the ones before, I could say his name because he was on here, but Pete Puccini, that was his company. He was so excited to be a part of, and he didn't get to go with that section. He got put with a different section, so he ended up going over there to support. But again, he was like, God, I think he missed a jump. Yeah, he missed a jump with them too, and or actually, he was like, he was at Ranger school, and he's like, he found out who jumped, and he's like, oh, it wasn't. He's like, you didn't miss no word. It wasn't these guys. He's like, except the weapons platoon, and that's where he was with. And he's like, but it's funny.
It's I think he ended up like I think it was first sergeant for Bravo Company. No,
Pete Puccini.
Yeah.
No, I don't remember.
I think he was.
Yeah,
I think he ended up getting to lead his own company, though. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, I know he grew up in Bico. I mean, dude, my heart belongs to Bico because I fought with them so much. The first night, you know, they're still doing fire missions, and it's night. We're kind of looking, and like at this point, like I'm running out of dip, and there was a hua.
Now that's a problem.
Yeah, because I only packed like a can or two because I thought I thought it was just a day mission. And there was this hua. He was a new kid, and it was really nice to him because he had the fortuity to bring in Marlboro Reds.
All right, brother. Well, sorry about that brief incident with our power.
We had at that point we kind of had like a live ammo perimeter, where it was like we basically pushed out all threats at this point to 1,500 to 2,000 meters, and that was kind of our buffer zone, and so the battlefield had kind of become this like no man's land, and so sporadically you'd see stuff here or there, and basically like everybody could see it, and I'd add that at this point, like up at the main element at the facility, they'd been fighting pretty nonstop, in short distance engagements with a very large force. Not to mention they'd done CQB to take over the building. They had a lot of POWs. One thing, I'm not sure if the story made it out, but we had a certain legendary leader in our ranks at the time who field promoted a wounded POW, so they could justify the medevac because he wanted to save the guy's life. So they were like, he was like, oh, we can't do majors or something like this. So they gave him a field promotion to colonel. Yeah, so they could get him on the bird.
That's badass, bro. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, me too. There was a lot going on, especially at the main facility, So and they were like they had like some street fighting going on too, like because there were the buildings run up to that facility, so like they're in they're in it, and so meanwhile, I should say too, while we have this perimeter out, there's still constant air support fire missions going on. So it's like, at a certain point, like I'm kind of just up there like spotting and just relaying information as best I can. And it's like, you have an A-10 mission come in, do a gun run on a building or two. Then, about like 20 minutes later, you'd have an F-16 come in and do a dive bomb, drop a J Dam on another building. And so you just kind of got like, it was just weird getting used to just being in, within 1,000 meters of an airstrike every 15 minutes. It's just, over and over.
So you're in a conventional gunfight. I've never been in a conventional. Mine was all unconventional. Like you said, they weren't wearing, like intention. It was not like army worth of guys attacking me. So I'm just kind of curious. Was it, because those guys seemed brave to continue to deal with all that. Were they in like, at least cement structured buildings? Were they dug in? Were there guys moving up to try to get their wounded? Were there teams trying to advance like we would, or trying to flank you guys?
So in the beginning, yes, and then there was a turning point of just the overwhelming precision firepower, and at that point the kind of tide had turned, at least for that distance. They were just like, dude, like they were just trying to get out as quick as they could. We were still, they were still fighting, like I'll get into it. Was really day 2 when the artillery started, and
there are some.
Yes. So it gets crazy. So this is just day 1. I should probably kind of use a segue into day 2, because this is when we started taking a hail of indirect fire that I can't even, describe in words, but I want to say we took something around 450 155 howitzer rounds day 2. Like, it was unbelievable. And so I'll kind of I'll tell you. I'll tell you if we have the time. Because it was like, yeah, we'd basically gotten so used to it that I learned in a day or two, like, not, you just kind of the intimate details of a howitzer shell, and when it was dangerous and when it wasn't, and what the shrapnel patterns look like. I mean, we did crater analysis and ran azimuths to give an idea on where the guns probably were. So it was I'd say the shellings were probably as big of a part of any of it, in terms of just what's the word? That is kind of the impact, for lack of a better term, of the dam. So, day one, I think it was around like 2 or 4 in the afternoon. I got to like finally get some rack time. And it's like we weren't taking indirect fire anymore. I think we'd been up for like 30 hours at that point or something crazy. So I got to, I got relieved, got some sleep, and came back out. I think it was like probably 10 or 11 at night. We did night watch, and so I'm kind of up there with the night scope, just observing, and they're still doing gun runs and stuff. And I think I don't know if it was the first night. It might have been the second or third in response to the artillery shellings we were taking. But they dropped a 2,000-pound bomb on one of the buildings at I want to say it was around 1,000 meters. Like, we were technically in the danger close, and they were telling us to like, get down and watch out for shells, which at that point was laughable because we'd been taking howitzer shells within 5 meters. So it's kind of like my barometer for safety had been like dramatically skewed at that point. But yeah, so the next morning, we're kind of doing morning watch, and I think this was around when the first round hit, and it just completely caught me off. Like there, I'd never experienced anything like this before. But a howitzer round, it sounds like a Boeing 747 landing. Like when you're under them, or when you're really near where their impact is, like it. Yeah, there's a whistle, but the whistle is more of a like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Kind of hard to really describe it. Like, but it's not like that. It's not like that pull or that whistle, and then that boost, that extra boost at the end. It's more of a I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to help you describe it, because unfortunately, training accidents happen. Oh, really? Yeah. So you have you been around a big shell, like, well, pretty dangerous close? We turned in a rent-a-car one time with 105 shrapnel tearing the side of the vehicle. That we did our first shot. My God, that sounds like a good story. Yeah, I kind of thought of it like if you're around a plane that's landing, sometimes they can really make that noise. It sounds, it's like a really loud. It almost sounds like engines, like, and it's this big, like, So with these rounds, when they're hitting really fast, like, you hear that for like half a second, and then there's an impact, and then there's an explosion. And you're witnessing the shrapnel like firsthand, and so we got rocked with like a couple hit the hill at the bottom, and it was like, whoa. And then they walked the rounds up, and these rounds were hitting the tip of the hill, and I'm like on the other tip of the hill, and there were a couple guys. There was a saw gunner, and I want to say either a machine gunner or maybe a line guy. But there were a couple of the line guys were there, and these rounds were impacting, and like just the force of it. It kind of felt like I don't know if you or maybe any of your listeners have ever like been wiped out by a wave, like a 10-foot wave, and it just like hits you. Yeah. It tumbles you, throws you to the bottom of the sea floor, and it knocks the wind out of you. Like that's what it felt like, kind of having these rounds hit this close. It was you just felt the wave go through you, and it just it's indescribable. And the next thing was that for the first time I saw shrapnel, like so these rounds are hitting the top, and then due to the angle, the rounds were going straight up in the air and then raining down on top of us. And so one of the guys took a big piece of shrapnel to the neck here, and the shrapnel is really hot. It actually it has smoke because it's that hot. And so it stuck to his neck. It was melting onto his neck. He had to pull he ended up pulling some Leathermans to peel it away from his neck.
Peel it away from
so we go. Yeah. And like to be fair, like this is like what the situation was, like because the pieces were slow moving and we kind of knew that, we were relieved, so he was laughing about it. And I think, this is just like once again, this is just like where we were at the time, where it was just like, if you weren't at an angle to where the shrapnel was going to like cut your head in half, you were just happy to have it rain on you. Also we're really kind of young and we've been in the battle for the day already. So, kind of spirits were high. But we must have taken, I think we probably took around like 15 rounds really close. And we had cover from the defilade, and then the rounds moved kind of off of us a little bit. And that was like early, that was like pretty early in the morning. And we just took a shelling for the rest of the day. The rounds would, they'd rock from our position all the way over to the hydroelectric facility, and they couldn't have been more direct hits. Like they were hitting positions that we were bunkered down in directly. So it was very effective fire. So during day 2, I actually got to stay out, and I was on the spotting scope the whole day looking for flash. So because we knew the direction, we knew the angle, because it's just like you just kind of know it intuitively, like it's very in your face, like so you can actually, you can just tell by the trajectory kind of where you have a general distance. And so I'd actually stayed out for hours, like kind of hanging out at the lip with my spotting scope, looking for flash. And then like if we were going to take like real close rounds or whatever, I'd just kind of like scuttle back down or whatever. And we did that for hours. Like we were kind of had that unique position to be able to glass.
Were you guys, and sorry, I just like get into the mentality of Ranger, man, because it impresses me that I was able to be around these kind of guys. But were you guys in any kind of comedic relief to kind of deal with any of that shit coming at you? Or because I know, I mean, the normal human being, like, that's terrifying. Like, that's like, let's fucking go. Let's get out of here. But there's just something about Ranger. That's why when I watched 300 and when all the fucking, they start firing all those arrows and they're laughing under the shield.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm like, oh my God, that's fucking Ranger right there.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of that. Like, I think, as long as nobody was getting killed or wounded, we had a really great attitude about it. Like I said, like we had a guy because we had guys get shell shocked. I mean, I was probably shell shocked for all I know, because it was really weird. Like I was pretty I can realize in hindsight I was very overwhelmed and numbed to about 95% of everything that was going on. It was just that 5% that I was like allowing for. But yeah, we had to do like, because at this point we'd taken, I don't know, 200 or 300 rounds, and it was like throughout the day. Like one of them had like destroyed one of our vehicles. They were like either directly hitting or glancing off of a lot of the buildings that we had taken cover in. So like we had a guy who was like, his nervous system was reacting to the rounds, and he had shell shock. Like he had the shakes, and he was like laughing about it. like we were just kind of like, whoa, hey, check it out, man. Like, yo, shell shock's real. You know what I mean?
That's real.
And it's like that, like that's the attitude. So yeah, like I don't think I certainly never saw anybody put anybody else in a position where they needed to be taken care of, Yep. Like and I think that's what that's kind of what that, between that and part two is like the esprit de corps. It's like I know most of us were just really grateful to be in the position we got to be in, to be in a battle, and an extended battle, to be useful. I mean, a lot of the time it's like, in war you're just hoping to be useful, and it's like when you get the moment, it's incredible, and everybody there was useful. Like there wasn't a single weapon system or observer or nobody was there that like wasn't getting to do their job.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were all, I think we were all happy to be there. I mean, there's this other thing too, is like, you get to know the shells so well, that there's a sort of an elating feeling. Like it's almost like you've conquered them a little bit. I don't know if that makes sense. But there's a lot of pride in like knowing, that a shell that sails over you at 120 meters at that distance, at the angle of the splash, isn't going to be dangerous for where you're at. And there's something kind of empowering to that. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. It does.
Yeah. Yeah. That at a certain point, like I had to take a shit. And we're in mop suits, and we have like RBA and full kit on. So it's like, it's an event. Like when you go to, it's like, it's not just a field shit. It's a field shit under fire. So there's a lull in like the 155s. Like they hadn't shelled us in like 10 or 15 minutes. So I was like, now's my chance. All right, I'm gonna go do this. So I like crawl down go down the hill, and it's like, this is a hill between the dam slope and position. So I know it's like relatively safe. And like sure enough, like I get my gear, like get a like deep mop suit, and I start to go, and like of course the fucking rounds start coming in again, and like about 4 rounds hit like within stone's throws distance, like on the other side of the hill, and I can like see him splashing, and it was like, and like you're getting buffeted by the acoustics, and like just when they go over you and you can see them, it's like just the acoustics alone are like completely overwhelming. And then sure enough, they're like splashing on the hill there. And I'm just thanking my lucky stars that I have defilade, and that it's far enough to where the shrapnel's not gonna, it's not gonna pepper me from that distance. But it was one of those like, of course moments.
Yeah.
One of the hardest things was that the other sniper team was in a high position at the facility, and the facility's like big concrete, like this thing's like sturdy, But man, like I saw rounds hit, like direct rounds hit, like on their position where they were where they're banked in. Like uh, that was one of the hardest things. Like just seeing that, it was just like, oh God, like dude, like please let them be, let them be safe.
Yeah.
And not everybody was so lucky. So we had a mortarman, awesome ranger. I loved this guy to death. And he took one of the largest, or I think maybe the largest piece of shrapnel to the head of any infantryman and survived. But
Wasn't it
at the time,
it was a young medic that kept him alive, wasn't it?
that was the same kid who was giving me cigarettes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
young
Matt.
medic.
Matt,
Yeah.
who wasn't technically a medic. He was an infantryman who they put through the medic course to fulfill a medic role, and that was his first deployment. So that was his first foray into combat, and yeah, he treated Felbush. He kept him alive, and it was it was bad. It was a bad wound. Like by all accounts, I don't, I think it's a miracle he was alive, really, for where he took the shrapnel. And so yeah, they met it back. They met it back. Felbush, he ended up surviving, and had a really heroic recovery, although tragically lost his sight. And I want to say it was day 2 or day 3. We took our other casualties. We had ACO giving us a company size, or I will not have been platoon size, but a blocking position to cover southern flank. And I believe it was day 2. I might be wrong. It might have been day 3, but yeah, I think it was day 2. A civilian vehicle approached the blocking position, and from what I understand, well, yeah. So from what I understand, it was because I'm not an eyewitness, but it was a pregnant woman who was asking for aid, and three men approached a vehicle which was rigged to explode, and we lost Livide, Ripito, and Long, I believe.
That's such fun, man. It sucks like that. It's times like that the baddest rangers in the world could have got hit on that one, man. They're just trying to help a fucking pregnant lady, and then and she was she was rigged to fucking blow them, man. That's so fucked up, dude.
Yeah, and it really changed. Like, it certainly, when we'd heard about it certainly put us in a little bit harder of a mindset.
Absolutely.
I believe it was the 3rd day when they'd ID'd at least 2 out of the 3 guns that were shelling us, and got a fire mission and destroyed them. Yeah. So by the 3rd day, we weren't taking indirect the way we were taking indirect fire. You still get, we were still taking indirect, though. I mean, like every 5, it went from every 5 minutes or 10 minutes to, maybe every 5 hours. And that was when, I think it was like that night when, we dropped a 2,000-pound bomb as a display of force. I think there were rumors they were going to drop a daisy cutter, which like everybody wanted to see, but, deciding against it. So that didn't happen. But, I'm trying to think here, not to gloss over any of those moments, because I mean they were obviously really big moments of battle.
I know the objective I've been on. Every time I look to my left and right, I just see Rangers doing amazing things, and it's like things that you would see, you hear stories about, and it's not you know how it's going to be. It's not about the medals, man. Like I could tell you the most meaningful thing for me was getting put on the black sheep wall. That has nothing to do with the medal. You know what I mean? Because I knew that was going to be there forever. And my son's name's on there now too. It's being respected by your friends. But the cool thing is you read these stories about these heroic events, and you're just like, man, that was like just our guys doing their job. You know what I mean? It's hard to get a medal in our situation, which again, that's not what it's about. That's not what I'm trying to say. But what I'm trying to say is we may have had the harder missions, but I feel like it wasn't as dangerous because we knew our guy to our left and right was going to be like, he was going to be a star. The bottom line was it was all-star teams. We didn't have to worry about whether or not that guy was going to give out on us or anything. And that was a huge deal. I wasn't worried about who was behind me, who pinched my shoulder, who, you know what I mean? Or who I was falling in, or, you know, it's just a surreal moment, and trying to live life afterwards. That's one of the hardest things. It's not that you don't like other people or you don't care about other people, but you're used to being around people that make you have to work hard just to be normal. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like my friends now, like I'm 50, almost 50 years old in a few months. And, you know, I feel like, oh, I'm in shape and stuff. And then I see some of my Ranger buddies and they're breaking records with freaking powerlifting, or they're making movies, or they're freaking beating, what's his name, that SEAL dude's pull up freaking, you know what I mean? It's like, dang, man, like, what is it going to take? Like, what do I got to do to be great at something, you know? Man, it's like,
yeah. They're high volume people.
We're like a twerking contest or something. Maybe I could be good at that. Nobody else can beat me.
Yeah, it's you know, really high volume people. I think, yeah. I remember my platoon sergeant. He told me the funniest thing when I was a private and I was new to the platoon, and he said, you know, to make it to this unit, you're a diamond, and the rest of the army, it's like you're a diamond in a goat's ass. Like, you don't have to work you shine, you know, you don't have to work very hard. But he's like, here, you're a diamond in a bucket of diamonds.
What? Yep.
And it was just kind of like, oh, goddamn. Yeah. Like, you know, like he knew exactly what that meant, you know. On the limited supply, I think it was like day 2, we had, everybody there was rationed on 2 half-liter water bottles a day and 1 MRE. And we had I believe we had an airdrop for ammo resupply I want to say day 2, but it might have still been day 1 in the afternoon. I know it wasn't during, I believe it wasn't during the shellings. The second piece is that, you know, we had, so when we had taken out those guns, I think it was day 3, we weren't, you know, we were no longer under like constant direct artillery bombardment. And at that point we were just kind of like surveying, the no man's land. And there were a few things, I mean, you know, these are kind of grisly details, but, one was, the 120 millimeter mortars on groups of enemy personnel in the open. The rounds, they would impact so hard they would launch whole groups of people up in the air like popcorn. Like it was my brain didn't even understand like that's what was happening, and that's what these old movies, when they show people jumping from the explosion, like what they're really talking about is like a round hits the ground so hard that it launches everybody up off of the ground, kind of like a big trampoline. And that this is something that like films like don't, you know, they're divorced from. But to see such a thing is just unbelievable. The next I would say was, you know, at this point, like much of the city has been demolished. Like it was pretty. A lot of buildings were brought to rubble from all the constant air support and bombardments and everything. So the family pets I think it was day 4 or day 5 had turned feral, and so they're all running around, wandering the battlefield or the wasteland, and they were devouring human corpses. And so, once again, I to bring it back to the man that I had brought up, the lone Iraqi soldier. When I watched him. He went to the dogs, and I remember thinking, the man deserved better.
Yeah.
And I think there were a few kind of important points I think are worth bringing up, and like one is that I think many of us all have that Iraqi soldier or that Afghan soldier, that one who stays with us and we think often about, and maybe they didn't get the recognition or the burial or the rights that they deserve, but there is a tomb of the unknown soldier in Iraq, and I spent a lot of time in Baghdad, especially as a contractor, and I think of that, and I think of that place, and I hope he goes to rest there, and I hope he's honored there, and I think there are many unknown soldiers, and they ought to be respected for their bravery and recognized.
Yeah. Wow, that was an incredible episode with Ryland. It was awesome, action-packed. Been wanting to get a hold of him for a while. The things that those Rangers did on the dam make me proud. Make me proud to be in regiment. Make me proud to be a part of SOCOM. But as amazing as that is, please don't miss part 2, because part 2 is what it's all about. And we start getting into the mental side of thing, how he was after the war and how he was able to get to where he is now. I appreciate you guys for being there. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and share with your friends. It's important to share, because the more shares and likes we get, the more content like this I can give you. Appreciate you guys. Out.